The left is completely blind when it comes to several issues, one of which, of course, is deporting illegal immigrants from this nation, and the other is the political future of Pete Buttigieg. And what we're seeing today, of course, is Chamath Palihapitiya calling out his woke garbage on the All In podcast. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Would you reopen the border, or would you maintain the Donald Trump position right now of, okay, now it's closed, now let's figure out this grand bargain, as you say? Keep
let's
it
be a little more
closed.
precise by what we mean. I mean, if you mean like having it be difficult, at least as difficult as it is now to cross illegally, I think it's a good thing for it to be difficult to cross illegally. But again, I think calling it open then or closed now, you're talking about a lot of different overlapping things. Obviously, there are a lot of things about Trump's immigration policy I think are wrong, destructive,
we can go to the
possibly
second
illegal.
piece too. I mean, if everybody has consensus that the border should be closed and it should be orderly and legal, great. It's 80% of the country. And then the majority of the country doesn't like what we're seeing with ICE agents without badges, right, wearing masks. That's the majority of the country is uncomfortable with this. A large percentage of the moderates who voted for Trump, at least this is what the surveys are saying, people are not comfortable with this. So I'm curious about what you think the motivation is. And you can go into conspiracy corner if you want. It's allowed here on this program. We can speculate. But the conspiracy corner for Biden was he wanted to let a lot more people in order to build the Democratic base, in order to get voters. Okay, that's one theory. Now the theory here is Trump is doing these violent deportations, tackling people, spending a lot of money while doing it. Why? Why is Trump doing it this way? Why does Pete think he's doing it this way?
I think he thrives on a politics of fear. I think chaos is good for him. I think he thrives on chaos. I think when you see images of people getting beaten up, or what he used to call American carnage, like anything that validates that, basically the worse it's a weird thing, but the worse it feels to be in this country, the better off Donald Trump is, whether he's running for president or whether he is president. And sending troops marching into the streets.
Can I just say, as the only immigrant right now on this podcast who immigrated here legally, I feel much safer and better under a Donald Trump presidency than I ever did under a Biden presidency. Just want you to hear it from my mouth for what that's worth.
Do you feel safer about the fact that a Latino doctor crossing the street in Washington, D.C. Is getting hassled or harassed because they're brown?
I don't think that I've heard that. Now,
okay, so you're not aware of any case in which a U.S. citizen who is
no,
like you're no,
but I will tell you, for example, after 9/11.
Wait, you're on a podcast commenting about immigration. Surely you have some level of awareness.
Let me tell you. After 9/11, for example, for years I had SSS on my boarding passes. And I was pulled over constantly, and people probably thought that I was a Muslim hijacker. Mm-hmm. So I know what it feels like to be harassed. And what I'm telling you categorically is I feel safer in this presidency than I have ever felt. And I'm just letting you know that. It's just my lived experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm glad you feel safer. I'm worried about how most Americans feel.
Well, I mean, I think we're all aware that people are being picked up and they're being racially profiled and their Fourth Amendment rights are being suspended here. And
let me put it a different way. Has it crossed your mind that if right now they started by going for people who are illegal, and then they've started roughing up people who are citizens but who are speaking up against the administration, that even if you feel safe now, in a country where that sort of thing can be done, where people can, where even comedians could lose their jobs for criticizing the government, does any part of you wonder if that might ever come for you?
Pete, it did come for me. Here's what I'm trying to tell you. After the Patriot Act passed after 9/11, I had to come to terms with the fact that even as a legal immigrant into the United States, that I was going to get extra searches, I was going to get stopped, and it happened for 6 years. I came to terms with it, I put my head down, and I kept working.
But that didn't mean it was okay, right?
It was a law that was passed, and people felt, for whatever reason, that there was an amount of racial profiling that could happen then. And what I'm telling you is every immigrant class at some point has felt this. My point is, it made things safer in the aggregate. And what I'm telling you now is what is happening now makes cities safer. It makes places safer. If you go to Washington, D.C., it is the safest it's ever been. And you hear this consistently from many, many brown and black people.
So that's what this is all about. Chamath Palihapitiya minces no words and says, guess what? I feel safer now under Donald Trump than I did under Joe Biden. Okay. And the reason why he's going to feel safer is simple. The rule of law is actually being enforced, at least federally, and of course in red states. The blue states are still fighting, kicking and screaming against this. But let's go ahead and flash back to the beginning, because you have Pete Buttigieg saying, we have this whole idea that the border was open then under Joe Biden and it's closed now. Yes, 100%. It was completely wide open then under Joe Biden, and now it is completely closed, right? Effectively, over 99% of all illegal crossings gone. All right. And that, of course, is a real result that Joe Biden could have achieved if he actually just wanted to. But of course, the Democrats didn't want that to happen. But Jason Calacanis over there would call that a conspiracy theory, even though it's verifiably true from Joe Biden's own mouth. But what Jason and Pete are also saying is, you know what? We have to have this orderly, legal immigration process. And I agree if you add in the word limited. We simply cannot have unfettered numbers of legal immigrants coming into this country. We have to give them time to assimilate. We have to give them time to embrace the American dream. And of course, we have to give them time to go through all the proper courses, etc., to learn about the history and the wonderfulness that is this nation, right? The whole point is to get them to come into us as opposed to us becoming them. And that, of course, is the big point the leftists always seem to miss. Now, as far as the ICE raids go, the American people actually support deporting all illegal immigrants, as of course we've seen from polling from Harvard-Harris and the New York Times. 56% of registered voters support deporting all illegal aliens, right? That's Harvard-Harris. 54% of registered voters support deporting immigrants living in this country illegally back to their home countries, all right? That's from the New York Times Siena poll. So guess what? Even these left-leaning pollsters are out there saying, you know what the American people don't like? Illegal immigrants. Get them out of this country. So you can say that, yes, American people don't like heavy-handed tactics or coverings of faces. But guess why they're doing that? Guess why ICE is forced to do that? Oh, it's because of the leftist governments of all of these blue cities and states that have offered sanctuary to even criminal illegal aliens. And now, of course, you have also the woke Karens out there doxing the ICE employees. So this is something that actually has to happen. But getting back to the topic at hand, you have Chamath Palihapitiya saying, you know what? As a legal immigrant, he faced some amount of, I guess we'll say, discrimination. But of course, I would make the argument, as Chamath also did, it was the law in this nation at the time. So you know what? Check people who were coming into this country from certain regions. And that's exactly what we're doing now. Okay, so have some Americans been swept up in some of this? Yes, they have been detained, but they've also been released. And as much as Pete Buttigieg wants to come out here and say, you know what, we have all of this profiling going on. Guess what? Profiling is legal as long as you have suspicion to back it up. All right. So if someone looks like an illegal immigrant, hanging out with illegal immigrants or in illegal immigrant areas, etc., what's going to happen? They're going to get detained, and all they have to do is provide identification to get out of that detainment. Okay. But here's a problem we also face. When you have leftist places like New York and California actually issuing identification to illegal immigrants. All right. Because flashback about 20 years, what was going on? Illegal immigrants had no documentation. But now, everyone from California has a driver's license, okay? And it's actually illegal to ask them about their immigration status. So do you see the problem we're running into here? How are we supposed to enforce our laws if the states are flouting them? And the answer to that question is simple. It's exactly what ICE is doing. And even though Pete Buttigieg is out there saying Donald Trump thrives on fear, well, you're half right about him thriving on chaos, but thriving on fear, that's what Democrats do. All right. Look at all of the laws they have passed, releasing criminals back into our streets, not prosecuting even violent criminal offenders. Right. That's the real fear they're putting into the American people so they can come out and say, vote more for Democrats because we're going to fix all the problems that we caused. Right. That's the rule of fear. What Donald Trump is ruling with is federal law. And even though Pete Buttigieg says, the Trump administration is actually roughing people up. No, they're arresting violent protesters. I would argue, Pete, have you seen any of the video of what's happening in Portland? All right. Have you seen any of the video that actually happened in Los Angeles, in Chicago? Have you seen the violent protests? Those are the people getting roughed up, as you say. It's the people that are actually fighting against a lawful use of federal force. All right. But of course, I'm betting that Pete Buttigieg doesn't even know that because he is still living in his leftist woke bubble. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.